everybody. I'm Dr. Alexis Conason, and I'm so happy to be joining you here on Facebook to answer all of the questions that you have about mindful eating. So we are going to just jump right in. It's noon, and I don't want to waste anyone's time. We're going to spend about half an hour together today, and I'll be back next week as well to answer any additional questions that you might have. So the way that we're going to organize this today is I'm going to be answering lots of the questions that we had from the Happify webinar. Thank you so much to everyone who attended. We had hundreds and hundreds of people who attended the webinar live and even more people who watched online. So there were a lot of questions that came out. I have over 40 questions. Obviously, I'm not going to have time to get to them all today. And I will be prioritizing any questions that you have. Anyone who's watching this live now on Facebook, you could write in your questions and I will definitely make sure to get to those today. But it's going to be a process as we go through all of the questions, but I promise I will get to each and every one because I think they were such great questions, such interesting things, really interesting for me to hear kind of what you guys want to know about mindful eating, because I work with this every day and I kind of forget what we need to know when we're just starting out or even when we're more experienced. A little bit about myself. So I am a clinical psychologist. I'm in private practice here in New York City, and I specialize in working with people with different types of overeating disorders. So people who struggle with emotional eating, compulsive overeating, binge eating disorder, and also just people who have been on the chronic dieting, overeating roller coaster. It's like so many women. People ask me what I do, and I say I kind of work with the average woman because I think it's so universal how many of us, men too, but especially women, over 91% of women are dissatisfied with their bodies. So it's like most of us. So that's a little bit about what I do in my practice. I run a program. It's a 9-week mindful eating program live here in New York City called the Anti-Diet Plan. And I'm going to just dive right into your questions now. So actually, sorry, I lied. Before I dive into your questions, I want to give just a very brief explanation of what is mindful eating, because some of you might be tuning in and you may not really be familiar with the idea of mindful eating. What is mindful eating? So mindful eating is a concept taken from mindfulness meditation that is really about being fully aware and present in the current moment with a sense of non-judgmental observation and awareness. And we bring that to our relationship with food. So to being fully present and aware in our eating experiences and with our body throughout the day. So tuning in really to our body's internal signs of hunger, fullness, what types of foods we enjoy. I call this our internal GPS system, like, you know, the navigation system that you have in your car. We all have an internal GPS kind of hardwired inside of us. And we just have that. So many of us, it's like the volume is turned all the way down and we can't hear, or we just don't listen to what our internal GPS system is telling us. So mindful eating is a practice that I have found really helps people turn up the volume on our internal GPS, learn how to trust our bodies again, honor the wisdom that our bodies are giving us, and get out of conflict with ourselves. We spend so much time at war with ourselves, and I'll tell you, we're not winning. It's not a war that we are winning. So I say, let's try something different. And mindful eating, I think, is something different. So some of the questions that I got, I will tell you, I grouped these into different categories. From the questions from the Happify webinar, almost a quarter of the questions were about sugar. So this is like a hot topic. This is something that you guys really want to know about. And I'm actually going to save it for next week because I think that there were so many questions about sugar and sugar addiction and can you eat mindfully if you are consider yourself to be a sugar addict, that I want to really just dive into that deeply in a way that deserves its own whole session. So I think probably next week we're just going to be talking about mindful eating and sugar addiction. So if you have questions about mindful eating and sugar addiction, you can ask them now. I'm going to get them to them next week, but please let me know because I want to make sure that we're talking about things that you want to hear about. So the other most popular questions that I got were about weight loss. Of course, everybody wants to lose weight, and will mindful eating help us lose weight? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. It's another hot topic, I think. And then the meditation piece, right? Where does meditation fit in? I want to change my relationship with food. Why the hell are we talking about meditation? It can seem kind of out of left field. So we'll get to that as well, and so many more questions. So I'm going to start off with the weight loss question, because that's something that I hear all the time. So I always preface by saying I am not a weight loss doctor. I mean, I have training in weight loss. I actually started off my career working in weight loss and weight management, but I really believe, and I experienced firsthand from my time working in the weight loss field, that what we are doing is not working. So focusing on weight loss often leads us to a lot of really unhealthy behaviors, and it takes us out of touch with our body. So when we're focused on weight loss, we're staying in conflict with ourselves, because we're imposing this external idea of what our body should be doing. And when our body isn't doing what we think it's supposed to be doing, then we start to mistrust ourselves, and we say we need to override what our body is telling us, right? And then we don't listen, and then we go back on a diet, listen to some expert, some guru, someone else who's going to tell us what to eat, how to take care of ourselves, and here we are stuck in that same cycle. Mindful eating is all about getting yourself out of the dieting cycle. The dieting cycle does not work. The most likely outcome of dieting is weight gain. So even if you do want to pursue weight loss, even if weight loss is a goal, I hate to be kind of the bearer of bad news here, but like, dieting is not going to get you there. So mindful eating, my approach to mindful eating through the anti-diet plan and the program that I run, is really about working towards accepting our body where it is right now. That's a hard sell, right? Like, people don't want to hear that. I totally get that. I spoke to some agents and marketing people, and they were like, no one wants to hear about an eating plan that doesn't promise that you're going to lose weight. Everyone wants to lose weight. Can you just tell them they're going to lose weight? And I wish I could, but ethically I can't, because our body is going to stabilize at a healthy weight for each one of us, and that is different for each individual. So in terms of, is mindful eating going to make me lose weight? I don't know. And I don't think you can know either. The only way to find out is to take weight loss off the table, is to really try to focus on caring for yourself the best way that you can in your current body in this current moment, right? So focusing on what foods make you feel good, listening to your internal signs of hunger and fullness, addressing other reasons that we might be eating, like emotional eating, as our primary coping mechanism to deal with emotions, and start to let your body be your guide. This is scary as hell. Like, I get that. This is really, really scary to say, I'm going to listen to my body. I'm not going to impose these external rules. I don't know what's going to happen to my weight. Ooh, that's scary. I get that. I'm right there with you. That's scary. But it's okay. Life can be scary sometimes. So, the answer, like I said, is mindful eating going to help me lose weight? I don't know. I trust that our bodies have the wisdom to know where our weight needs to stabilize. What we do tend to see with mindful eating is people get off of the roller coaster. People get off of the, crash dieting, lose 20 pounds, gain back 30 the next month, or, over the next year, like this yo-yo dieting that we know has a lot of ramifications for our health and well-being. Physically, it's not good for our body to be going up and down so much with our weight. And emotionally, it's a train wreck. I mean, who hasn't lost weight on a diet, felt like they were on the top of the world, all of our problems are going to be solved, only to slowly over time regain the weight and feel like a complete failure. So, emotionally, it takes us on a total mind game. And I think as much as we can, to try to focus on what makes us feel good, what makes our body feel good, what makes our mind feel good. Put weight loss, just take it off the table for now. Try something different. If you try something different, you still want to go back to like Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers, they will always be there for you. They will always be happy to take your money. But that's not what mindful eating is about. Mindful eating is about caring for ourselves in a much deeper way than just focusing on our weight. It's about focusing on our health, focusing on our physical health, our emotional well-being, and focusing on trusting ourselves, trusting that our bodies will guide us in the right direction. I have a lot of faith in that, and I've seen it over and over again with my clients. So, okay, I think that answers, will mindful eating make me lose weight? The answer is, I have no idea. I don't know. Different for each person. Some people lose weight, some people gain weight, some people's weight stays the same. Sorry, just can't answer that for you. This one I can answer. How is meditation tied to food issues? So a lot of people say, I want to address my issues with eating, but I don't want to meditate. That sounds like really boring. Who wants to do meditation? And how in the world is that going to help me with my eating? So meditation is really, I see, the foundation of mindful eating. I mean, I see some programs that teach mindful eating and don't include any meditation, and I just, it's part of the philosophy. So I think it's really tied in for good reason. Mindfulness, and we see the power of mindfulness in so many research studies, not just with mindful eating, but using mindfulness meditation for a whole lot of everything for the treatment of depression, to anxiety, to chronic pain, stress management. And when you look at some of this research and how powerful the effects of regular meditation practices, I think it's easy to understand why meditation is such an important piece of changing our relationship with food, because it's not really just about changing our relationship with food and our body, it's about changing our relationship with ourselves. And that's at the core. I mean, that's what we need to do. It's not just about changing our eating, it's about changing the way that we relate to ourselves. And that is really hard to do. We need every tool in the toolbox. And to be honest, mindfulness and self-compassion comes through mindfulness. Those are the two most powerful tools that I have found, along with acceptance. And that's all tied in with mindfulness. So how does it directly relate to food? When we are eating mindfully and being fully present and aware in the current moment, we're able to hear what our body's telling us in a different kind of way. So mindfulness, the formal mindfulness meditation practice, is what actually gives us the ability to tune into our body in a different kind of way, to hear what our body's saying. So remember, I talked about our internal GPS system, our body's internal navigation that's kind of like all the way down, the volume's turned all the way down. We have to be able to hear that with really good ears, or turn up the volume, something either in the way that those signals are being sent out or the way that we're able to hear those signals has to strengthen the connection there. And mindfulness, I think does that. So mindfulness, through the formal meditation practice where we just, it might be a seated guided meditation of our breath. It might be a walking meditation. There's lots of different meditations out there. I have one available, a very brief one available on my website if you want to just check it out, see what this whole meditation thing is really all about. It helps build the muscle that allows us to become more aware of our body and of our relationship with food. So I think about it as like going to the gym. We might go to the gym and do bicep curls. And bicep curls aren't necessarily the most fun activity. Most of us don't do bicep curls just for the sake of saying, I wonder how many bicep curls I can do, or I wonder, I just really love doing bicep curls. No, we do bicep curls because we want to strengthen our arm muscles, and we want to strengthen our arm muscles so that, when our daughter runs into our arms, we can catch her, we can hold her, we can pick her up, or someone hands us a heavy package, we don't just drop it right away. And I think of meditation the same way. It's strengthening the muscles in our brain so that when we need to become aware and present throughout the day, it's very easy to do that. So we're faced with a challenging task, a stressful situation, a challenging eating situation. We have to make a choice around food. The formal meditation practice makes it so that our muscles are strong and that we can go easily to the tools of mindfulness and being present and being aware, and we don't drop the ball in that moment. Or if we do, at least we're kinder to ourselves, because that's another thing that mindfulness helps us with a lot. So I think that meditation is really a foundation to changing our relationship with food and changing our relationship with ourselves. In my opinion, it's the most powerful tool that we have. If there was only one thing that I would recommend that someone do to start to change their relationship with their eating, with their body, with themselves, I say meditation. And like I said, you can check out, I have meditation doesn't often, we get overwhelmed when we think about meditation because we think about meditation as I have to sit for an hour every single day in some special, on the floor, in some special position that may not be so comfortable. Maybe you think I have to go to a meditation center, I have to go to a monastery to meditate. No, meditation can be totally accessible wherever you are, whenever it is. And that's the reason that I have on my website a 3-minute meditation. Start off just 3 minutes a day, and you can start to slowly build that practice of building up a mindfulness practice. And it's experiential. If you don't trust me, just try it yourself and see if you notice any change in terms of your the way that you start to relate to yourself and observe your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So another question that we got is mindful eating the same thing as intuitive eating? So a lot of people might be familiar with intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is a program that was developed by Evelyn Tribole and Elisa Reach, and it's a book, and they have, it's a whole program. It's outlined in their book. It's a wonderful program. I highly recommend reading it if people haven't. It's been helpful to numerous, countless hundreds of thousands, I would imagine, people have used this program to help them heal their relationship with food. So I'm a big fan of that program. But I do think it's a little bit different than mindful eating. So mindful eating is, again, based on mindfulness meditation. Intuitive eating is a very specific program based on certain principles that are laid out in the book. Mindful eating is more about the practice of connecting with ourselves, being present and aware in the current moment in our relationship with food and with our eating. So there's some similarities because both, at least my version of mindful eating as I teach in the anti-diet plan and intuitive eating, both endorse a non-restrictive approach to food and the fundamental kind of idea of starting to listen to our body. But I think the tools of how we do it is a little bit different because I really focus on the meditation piece. I think that meditation, that developing that formal meditation practice is just essential. I don't think we can eat mindfully without it. So let's see what else we have here. What other questions? So some of the questions that you guys asked, we had a question come from Facebook, if I can find it. Okay. Actually, this was a question off of Instagram. So if anyone is following me on Facebook and not on Instagram, you can check out my Instagram feed as well. And you had the opportunity to post questions on Instagram. I'll do that each week. You can post your questions on Instagram if you're not on Facebook. And I'm going to record, this is being recorded, and you'll be able to get this live through or not live, but you'll be able to get the recording through my email list. So sign up for my email list as well if you want to get that. So this was a question that came from Instagram, and the question was, how do I remember to eat each meal mindfully? My first instinct is to eat compulsively. So many people struggle with compulsive eating. We sit down to a meal and we just want to dig right in, and it's really hard to remember to stop and be present and to be aware. I think this is especially true when we have conflicts around food and conflicts around our body, because when we're in conflict with ourselves, like, we don't want to sit with ourselves. It's really hard to be present with our eating. It's uncomfortable. It brings up all of the things that we spend so much of our time trying to get away from. So, how do I remember to eat mindfully at each meal? I don't think we need to eat mindfully at each meal. I don't think mindful eating is an all or none, right? Because then it becomes the mindful eating diet. And we've all been there. Diets don't work. All or none doesn't work. We have to find what works well for us. And it's really individualized and really unique. So I would recommend, if you're really struggling with how to eat mindfully at each meal, don't even think about eating mindfully at each meal. Think about eating mindfully maybe at one meal or one eating experience, one snack, a few bites of your meal or your eating. You could even set a timer for maybe like 3 minutes before you eat, and just try to eat at that time. I really like to recommend that we kind of just take a little bit of space for ourselves and pause before we eat. So there's, if we think about a lot of religious traditions, they have incorporated this pause, this separation between our everyday life, kind of like working and taking care of kids or whatever we're doing. We're going, right? Most of us, we're just going through our days. We're not stopping. We're not connecting with ourselves at all. And a lot of religious traditions have brought in the idea that before we eat, we stop, we pause, we do something different, whatever that ritual might be. In Christianity, it might be saying grace and taking a moment to pause and, give thanks for the meal that you're about to eat. In Judaism, people who are observant might wash their hands before a meal, or they might say certain prayers before the meal. So I think there's different variations of this in many different religions. And even if you're not religious, I think there's a value to this idea. Like, I think that religion was kind of onto something here with the idea that eating is a sacred experience. It's not just part of our day. We've lost that, right? And certainly in New York, where I'm based, like, I hear about most people who eat their lunch, eat their breakfast. I see people on the subway eating their breakfast, like eating a sandwich, breakfast sandwich as they're just trying to like get to work. I see people, I hear about many people who are eating at their eating lunch at their desk, right? Like, I often say, talk to clients about lunchtime and how to eat mindfully around lunchtime, and they're like, lunch break? What? Like, I don't get a lunch break. We don't take a break for lunch. The expectation is that we either run out for 5 minutes, pick something up and eat it at my desk, or I bring something to work, or I don't eat lunch, right? They wait until like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, sometimes until dinner. I hear this a ton. So I really think that if we can create space for ourselves, it doesn't have to be a whole mindful meal, a whole mindful experience, but just take a moment, right, with our food there in front of us to check in. How are we feeling before we eat? Are we hungry? Are we full? Do we have any feelings or thoughts coming up in terms of preparing to eat the food? What does the food look like? We could take a moment to have gratitude and to think about how the food was prepared for us, how the food, came to be. But I think that pause is really significant. And you can use in terms of how to remember to do it, I think that if we use each eating experience as a signal, not to say that we have to eat mindfully, but to say, I'm going to take 30 seconds and just breathe. Focus on your breath for a moment. Look at the food in front of you. Tune in with yourself. 30 seconds. If you can use each eating experience as kind of a signal to you to take that pause and take that break, then I think we're already moving in a totally different direction than if we are just eating on the go. There's actually some really, like a research study that came out years ago that showed that people who eat lunch and don't stop, like don't take a lunch break and are just eating meals like in front of the computer as part of their workday, that our body registers the food differently, like that we actually think that we haven't eaten because our mind hasn't eaten. We haven't been present, really with our eating experiences. So I know that's often like the kind of magazine sidebar mindful eating tip, right? Is like turn off the computer, step away from the TV, turn off the distractions. Mindful eating is about so much more than that, it's so much more complex. But I do think that there's something to be said for creating a sacredness around the meal, even if we are going to eat in front of our computer or eat as part of our workday or eat in front of the TV, to just take 30 seconds and say, how am I feeling? Am I hungry? Is this what I want to be eating? I think that is really powerful, and that can, just make a big difference. So we are just about out of time. We have about 2 minutes left, but I don't think that's going to be enough time to answer any more questions. But I just want to thank everybody for joining me today. This is actually the first solo Facebook Live that I've done in this format. So any kinks or tech issues or suggestions you have, please let me know. I'm planning on doing this weekly, and I'm going to be answering, the questions. We could spend a few weeks just going through the questions that I have from the Happify webinar. I'm telling you, we had like over 40 questions. So, and each one of them is really good. And I do want to get to each and every question, but also send me in your questions. You can send them in on my Facebook page. If you aren't following me on Facebook, you can do that, Alexis Conason, Psy.D. If you aren't a Facebook person and you want to ask your questions on Instagram and allow me to answer them on the live and then catch the replay, which will be sent by email, you can do that. My Instagram account is at the Anti-Diet Plan. I am on Twitter at Conason Psy.D. You can shoot me your questions through Twitter, and definitely sign up for my email list, which you can do at my website. I'll post that in the comments, but it's www.drconason.com, and you will get the replays of all of the Facebook Lives if you're not able to make it live. The live event itself. So thank you again for joining me. I hope that everybody is able to carve out a space to create just maybe even 30 seconds of mindfulness. You could check out the live, you can check out the 3-minute meditation, totally doable. It doesn't have to be a long meditation. 3 minutes is a great place to start. That's also on my website. And I'm just so honored and privileged to have you here with me today. So thank you.